The last 18 months has been very difficult, and I've stuck by him through thick and thin. I've been incredibly loyal, and then, and then to have this happen, I mean, basically you could say I've wasted 2 years of my life, the last 2 years. I certainly, along with a lot of people, lost respect for Tiger.
He's a fraud. That is what the caddy thought when he walked away. Those 3 words would end up destroying a reputation built over decades. Golf looks like the classiest sport on earth. Perfectly mowed fairways, clean shirts tucked in, handshakes on the 18th green, polite clapping from galleries who whisper instead of shout. It is the sport of gentlemen, or at least that is what the marketing tells you. But here is the truth. The guy carrying the bag sees something completely different. He sees who you are when the camera pans away. He hears what you say between holes when no microphone can pick it up. He watches how you treat the people who cannot help your career. And sometimes, when that partnership ends, the truth comes spilling out in a way that changes everything. Picture this scene. It is 2019, a tournament somewhere on the tour. 2 men who used to rule the sport of golf cross paths. Maybe in a hallway, maybe near the practice green. They were once inseparable. Now, they do not speak. They barely look at each other. The air between them feels cold. Years ago, they won 13 major championships together. 13. That is more than most players win in their entire lives. But now, there is nothing. No nod, no acknowledgement. Just 2 people who used to be partners, pretending the other does not exist. One of them, the caddy, later said the player was still bitter, still holding on to something from years before. The other one, the player, simply moved on, as if those 13 years meant nothing. That is the gap we're talking about, the gap between the public story and the private reality. The story the public gets is polished. It is managed by agents and sponsors. But the private reality is messier. It is money owed. It is respect missing. It is loyalty that only went one direction. And today, you are about to see 5 cases where a golfer's image crumbled completely because the person who knew them best finally told the truth. Quick thing, if you want to back this video, hit the hype feature and give it some hype because these stories get wild and they only get more shocking as we go. Golf sells you a dream. The dream says that if you work hard and have talent, you will earn respect. That the sport is about integrity, fair play, honor. But the caddy is the one person who cannot be fooled by that dream because they're the person who is watching. They are with you for 5 hours straight in brutal heat or freezing wind. They are reading the yardage while you are complaining about the lie. They are carrying 30 pounds on their back, walking uphill while you are on the phone with your agent talking about your next endorsement deal. They are tactical advisors who know the course better than you do. They are mental coaches who have to keep you calm when a bogey turns into a double. They see how you treat the volunteers. They hear how you talk to the marshals. They watch how you act when a fan asks for an autograph at the wrong time. They see everything. And when things fall apart, when the caddy walks off mid-round or speaks out in an interview, the version of you that the public believed in can vanish in one single moment. These 5 stories are about that moment. The moment the mask slipped. Some of these players were called legends. Some were called nice guys. But the caddy saw through all of it. They saw the truth behind the brand. And what they said next made millions of fans realize they had been sold a fraud. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Let us start with the one story where the fraud was not actually the player. It was the caddy himself. Number 5, Ian Woosnam and Byrne. The nightmare that cost a major and exposed a fraud of competence. The year is 2001, July, the Open Championship at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. Ian Woosnam is standing on that first tee in the final round. He is a former world number 1, a legend of the sport. He already has 1 major title, the Masters, back in 1991. But that was 10 years ago. Now, at age 43, he has 1 more real shot at glory. He steps up to that first hole, nails a birdie. The crowd erupts. He is now tied for the lead. His caddy, Byrne, is right there beside him, carrying the bag. Everything is going according to plan. Then they get to the second tee. Byrne checks the bag 1 more time, and then his face goes completely pale. He sees something that should not be there. A 15th club, a spare driver, left in the bag from a practice session. You are allowed 14 clubs maximum. That is the rule. If you have 15, even if you never use it, you get penalized. Under Rule 4.4, the penalty is 2 strokes per hole where the violation occurred. Woosnam's lead is gone, just like that. He ends up tying for 3rd place. The title goes to someone else. And the money that comes with winning, over £200,000, is gone too. Woosnam is absolutely furious. He turns to Byrne and delivers the line that will define this disaster. I give you one job to do, and you cannot do it. One job. Count the clubs. Make sure the bag is legal. That is the core responsibility of a caddy at the elite level. And Byrne made that mistake on the biggest stage possible, in the final round of a major championship, with his player in position to win. But Woosnam does not fire Byrne, not right away. Despite the anger, despite losing a major title, Woosnam keeps him on. He even defends him in interviews. He calls Byrne a good lad, says everyone makes mistakes and you have to move forward. Woosnam is trying to be the bigger person. And for a couple of weeks, it looks like Byrne might actually survive this. Then they get to the Scandinavian Masters, 2 weeks later. It is the final round. Woosnam shows up at the course, ready to go. He looks around for Byrne, but Byrne is not there. He is not at the course. He is not answering his phone. Eventually, the truth comes out. Byrne was out drinking the night before. He stayed out late. He drank too much. And then he overslept. He missed the tee time after being given a second chance, after costing his boss a major championship and over £200,000, after being defended publicly. Byrne could not do the most basic thing, show up on time. Woosnam has to scramble. He breaks into his own locker to grab his shoes because Byrne has the key. He ends up hiring the local caddy master as an emergency replacement. The second that round is over, Byrne is gone. Fired on the spot. No second chance. Byrne eventually leaves professional golf entirely. He transitions into construction work, and that tells you everything you need to know. The fraud here is about presenting yourself as someone capable of handling the pressure and responsibility of working at the highest level of the sport, and then proving that you cannot. Byrne had the job. He was working with a major champion, but when it mattered, he failed twice. The first failure was a mistake. The second failure was a choice. Byrne chose to go out drinking, chose to oversleep, chose to miss the tee time. And that choice revealed who he really was. Someone who did not have the discipline or the professionalism to do the job. That was the caddy failing the player. Now let us flip the script entirely. Number 4, Robert Allenby and the pattern of walk-offs. When being professional does not mean being decent. Robert Allenby was a solid player on the PGA Tour for years. He had multiple wins, he was competitive in big tournaments, he made millions of dollars. But behind the scenes, Allenby had a reputation, and it was not a good one. Caddies talk. They share stories in the caddy yard. And when it came to Allenby, the warnings were loud and clear. Do not take that bag. It is not worth it. Allenby had a temper. And when things went wrong on the golf course, he would explode. Not at himself, at his caddy. The defining moment came at the 2015 Canadian Open. Allenby is in the middle of his round. Then he gets to the 13th hole, a par 4. There is a disagreement. Allenby and his caddy, Mick Middlemoe, are looking at the shot. Middlemoe suggests a certain club. Allenby does not like the suggestion. In a normal working relationship, this would be a simple conversation. But Allenby does not just disagree. He explodes. He starts yelling at Middlemoe, right there on the course, in front of cameras, in front of thousands of fans. Middlemoe is standing there, holding the bag, getting absolutely torn apart for suggesting the wrong club. After the round, Allenby tells reporters that Middlemoe lost the plot, that Middlemoe was threatening him. He paints this picture of a caddy who snapped and became aggressive. Allenby is trying to control the narrative. But Middlemoe is not going to let that story stand. After the tournament, Middlemoe gives an interview. He calls Allenby's version complete rubbish. And then Middlemoe says the line that cuts right to the heart of the issue. He says that off the golf course, Robert Allenby is just not a very nice human being. Not a very nice human being. That is not a comment about a bad day. That is a character assessment. And Middlemoe does not stop there. He adds that if you asked other people on the tour, other caddies, other players, they would tell you the same thing, that Allenby has a pattern. Here is the part that makes this story so damning. Middlemoe was not the first caddy to walk out on Allenby. He was not even the second. According to Michael Collins from ESPN, Middlemoe was the 4th caddy to quit on Allenby in the same way. 4 different people, 4 separate incidents, all involving the same pattern, a blow-up, a verbal assault. and the caddy deciding that no amount of money is worth this kind of treatment. When one person quits on you, you can call it a personality clash. When two people quit, you start to see a pattern forming. But when four people walk off, when four professional caddies all decide independently that working with you is intolerable, that is not a pattern anymore. That is a warning label. The fraud here is not financial, it is behavioral. It is the fraud of professionalism. The assumption that being a professional golfer automatically means you are a professional person, that you treat people with respect. Allenby proved that assumption wrong. He had all the outward signs of success, the tour card, the wins, the status, but his behavior toward the people who worked for him was toxic. And the caddies saw the truth. They saw a man who used his position to verbally abuse people who could not fight back. When you treat people terribly, eventually someone is going to call you out for it. Number 3, Matt Kuchar and the $5,000 insult. When the nice guy mask slips off. Matt Kuchar spent his entire career building one specific brand. He was the good guy, the nice guy, the guy who smiled at everyone, the guy who signed every autograph, the guy who stopped to talk to fans. Fans absolutely loved him. He was relatable, approachable, and sponsors loved him too. Because when you are that likable, brands want to be associated with you. Kuchar was the kind of player you could trust, or at least that is what everyone thought. Then came November 2018, the Mayakoba Golf Classic in Mexico. His regular caddy, John Wood, could not make the trip, so Kuchar needed a fill-in, a local caddy who knew the course. He found one, David Herral Ortiz. Everyone knew him as El Tucan. He worked at the course in Mexico. He knew the layout, he knew the greens, and he was available. Kuchar hired him. Now, here is what you need to understand about caddy pay on the PGA Tour. There is a standard. Everyone knows it. When a player finishes in the top 10, the caddy gets 5% of the prize money. Top 5 gets 7%. And when a player wins, the caddy gets 10%. That is the deal. That is what has been agreed upon for decades. Kuchar wins the tournament. First place. The check is $1,296,000. And according to the standard, Ortiz should have received 10% of that, $129,600. Instead, Kuchar pays him $5,000. $5,000 out of $1,296,000. If you do the maths, that is 0.38%, not even half of 1%. It is an insult disguised as a payment. When Ortiz realizes what is happening, he asks for more. He asks for $50,000. That is still way below the standard rate, but it is closer to fair. Kuchar's agent, Mark Steinberg, steps in, and the agent says no. The agent says the original payment of $5,000 is fair. Fair. And then Kuchar himself makes the comment that destroys his reputation forever. He says that for a man in Ortiz's position, $5,000 is a great week. Read that again. For a man in Ortiz's position. What Kuchar is really saying is this. You are from Mexico. You are a local caddy. You do not make much money normally, so you should be grateful for whatever I give you. It is one of the most patronizing, condescending, exploitative things you can say. Because what Kuchar is doing is valuing Ortiz's labor not based on the work he did, but based on where he is from and how much money he usually has. It is saying that because you are poor, you do not deserve to be paid fairly. That is the fraud. That is the moment the nice guy mask falls completely off. The backlash is instant and massive. Media outlets pick up a story. Fans are furious. Social media explodes. People call him a cheapskate, a hypocrite, a fraud. Golf writers, who had always praised Kuchar for his sportsmanship, suddenly turned on him. Columnists wrote scathing pieces about the hypocrisy. Former caddies went public with their own stories about the pay structure and how Kuchar had violated it in the most blatant way possible. Sponsors began to quietly distance themselves from him. And other players on the tour, while not publicly criticizing him, made it clear through their silence that they disapproved. The story dominated golf coverage for weeks. They point out that Kuchar is worth millions, that he could have easily paid Ortiz the $50,000 and never even noticed it was gone. But he chose not to. He chose to fight over it. And the more Kuchar tries to defend himself, the worse it gets. Because every time he talks, he reveals more about how he actually thinks. He does not see Ortiz as an equal partner in the win. He sees him as cheap labor. Someone he can underpay because they do not have the power to fight back. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much. Kuchar issues an apology. He admits his comments were out of touch. He pays Ortiz the $50,000. He donates money to local charities in Mexico, but the damage is done because millions of people saw the truth. They saw that the smiling, friendly, nice guy persona was just marketing. They saw that when money was on the line, when Kuchar had the power and Ortiz did not, Kuchar chose greed over fairness. The fraud is not that Kuchar pretended to be nice. It is that his niceness had a price. It had limits, and those limits were drawn around his bank account. Number 2, Phil Mickelson and the unpaid partner. The breakdown of a 25-year friendship. Phil Mickelson was one of the most beloved players in golf for decades. He was fun. He was talented. He gambled on risky shots that made crowds gasp. He talked to the galleries. He had the nickname Lefty, and fans absolutely adored him. And for 25 years, he had the same caddy by his side, Jim Mackay. Everyone called him Bones. Together, they won 5 major championships. 5. The Masters 3 times, the PGA Championship once, the Open Championship once. They were a team, the kind of partnership that looked unbreakable. And when they split in 2017, the public story was simple. It was amicable. They both released statements saying they wanted to move on. No drama, just a mutual decision. That was the story the public got. But that was not the truth. According to biographer Alan Shipnick, who spent years researching Mickelson's life, the real story is much darker. Shipnick says that the split was not mutual at all. Bones did not just leave. He fired Phil. At the 2017 Memorial Tournament, Bones told Phil he was done. He was walking away. And the reason was not about wanting a new challenge. It was about money, specifically hundreds of thousands of dollars in overdue back pay. Phil Mickelson, one of the highest-earning athletes in the entire world, was not paying his caddy. The man who had been with him for 25 years. The man who helped him win 5 majors. Mickelson owed him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he was not paying it. How does that even happen? The answer is complicated, but it comes down to one word: gambling. Between 2010 and 2014, Phil Mickelson lost between $40 million and $56 million gambling. $40 million. Gone. And it was not just gambling. Mickelson spent money like he had an endless supply. He bought a T-Rex skull. He paid for pilots, chefs, agents, and a massive support staff. He lived in California, where taxes are sky high. And all of that added up to a situation where Mickelson was in serious financial trouble. He was living beyond his means, and one of the consequences was that he was not paying Bones, his closest partner, the man who had been with him for 25 years. Mickelson owed him hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the money was not the only problem. There was also the issue of respect. In golf, there is a tradition. When a player wins a major championship, the caddy gets to keep the flag from the 18th green. It is a symbol of the partnership, a piece of history. Bones should have had 5 of those flags, but according to sources close to Bones, Mickelson refused to give them to him. After winning 5 majors together, after 25 years of partnership, Mickelson kept all the flags for himself. Think about what that says. You win the biggest tournaments of your life with someone by your side, and you refuse to honor the tradition that says they earned a piece of that history too. That is not just thoughtless, that is cruel. When Bones finally left and the split became public, Mickelson eventually handed over the flags. But there was a twist, a final insult. He had signed them with comically large signatures. Signatures so big, they dominated the fabric. So even when he gave Bones what he was owed, Mickelson made sure to stamp his own name across it. That is the fraud of Phil Mickelson. To the public, he was the affable guy, the fun-loving gambler, the fan favorite. But behind the scenes, he was not paying his closest business partner. He was refusing to honor basic traditions. He was treating the person who knew him best with contempt. And when the partnership ended, it ended because Bones had had enough. The friendly image was a lie, or at least it was selective. Mickelson could be generous and fun when he wanted to be. But when it came to the person who worked hardest for him, that generosity disappeared. Mickelson's financial chaos and lack of respect caught up with him, and Bones walked away. Later, Mickelson would make another decision that confirmed what people suspected. In 2022, he joined Live Golf, the Saudi-backed league that paid him massive money up front. Reports suggest he got over $200 million just to sign. Many analysts believe Mickelson took that deal because he was desperate. He needed the cash to cover his gambling debts, to fix the financial disaster he had created. The fun-loving gambler persona was just covering up a man drowning in financial pressure. And the person who saw it first, who lived through it, who paid the price for it, was Bones. The fraud was the myth of stability and friendship. Fans thought Mickelson had it all together, but the closest person to him knew the truth. And when that truth finally came out, the illusion fell apart completely. Number 1. Tiger Woods and the coldest firing in golf history. The biggest fraud of loyalty ever told. This is the big one. Tiger Woods and Steve Williams. 13 years together, 13 major championships, 63 PGA Tour wins. The most dominant player-caddy partnership in the history of the sport. They were unstoppable. Tiger was the greatest golfer on the planet. Williams was the caddy who carried the bag through all of it. And when people talked about Tiger, they talked about Williams too. They were a unit, a machine, a partnership that rewrote the record books. Until 2011. That is when it ended. And the way it ended revealed something about Tiger that shocked the world. It revealed that everything fans believed about loyalty was a lie. It was the AT&T National, Tiger's own tournament. Tiger called Williams into a meeting. It was brief, very brief. No warning, no discussion about performance issues. Just a quick meeting, a few sentences, and then it was over. You are done. After 13 years, after all those wins, after all those majors, Williams was fired, just like that. And the timing made it even worse, because this was not happening after a great run when both sides were on top. This was happening after the worst period of Tiger's life. The 2009 scandal. The personal crisis that destroyed Tiger's marriage and his reputation. The loss of sponsors. The media firestorm. The public humiliation. And through all of that, Williams stayed. He did not quit. He did not speak out. He did not abandon Tiger when everyone else did. He stayed loyal. He carried the bag. He dealt with the abuse from crowds who hated Tiger. He shielded Tiger from the media. He took the heat. He was the loyal soldier who stood by his boss even when everything was falling apart. And his reward for that loyalty? A cold, instant firing with no explanation, no discussion, no respect for the years of service. Just done. Williams did not take it quietly. He went public immediately. He gave interviews. He told the truth about how it felt. He said he had been incredibly loyal to Tiger, that he had stood by him through everything, that he had sacrificed his own reputation to stay by Tiger's side, and that after all of that, Tiger had treated him like he was disposable, like he was a piece of equipment that was no longer useful. Williams said the final 2 years of their partnership had been a complete waste of his life. That is a brutal thing to say, but it tells you how betrayed he felt. He had given Tiger everything, and Tiger had thrown him away without a second thought. But the story does not end there. Williams later sought out Tiger face to face, not for a reconciliation, but to confront him, to put him in his place. Williams wanted Tiger to know exactly how he felt, wanted to make sure Tiger understood that the firing was not just a business decision. It was personal. It was a betrayal. The confrontation was direct. Williams told Tiger that he had given him everything, that he had sacrificed years of his life, that he had protected Tiger when the entire world turned against him. And Tiger's response revealed the depth of the disconnect. Because Tiger did not apologize, did not acknowledge what Williams had done for him, did not show any regret for how he had handled the firing. Instead, Tiger remained cold, distant, as if Williams was still just another employee who had been let go. That moment confirmed everything Williams suspected, that Tiger had never seen him as a partner, never seen him as a friend, just as someone who served a purpose. And when that purpose ended, so did the relationship. And even years later, the bitterness remained. In 2019, 8 years after the firing, Williams was asked about Tiger in an interview, and he said that when they crossed paths at tournaments, Tiger was still bitter, still cold. 8 years later, and Tiger could not let it go, could not be civil, could not acknowledge the man who had helped him become the greatest player in the world. That tells you everything about who Tiger really is. The partnership that once looked like brotherhood was revealed to be something else entirely. It was transactional. Tiger needed Williams when he was winning. But when things got hard, when Tiger's form dropped and his life fell apart, Williams became a reminder of that failure. And the moment Tiger decided he did not need that reminder anymore, Williams was gone. That is the fraud, the myth of loyalty, the myth of partnership. Fans believed that Tiger and Williams were partners, that they were in it together. But the private reality was that Tiger saw Williams as a tool, a very good tool, but still just a tool. And when the tool was no longer needed, the tool was discarded. No conversation, no respect for the history they had built, just a brief meeting and a cold goodbye. And what makes this even more painful is the context. Williams had stayed with Tiger through the worst period of his life. The scandal destroyed everything Tiger had built. And through all of it, Williams stayed. He did not quit. He did not take offers from other players. He stayed loyal. He protected Tiger. And the moment Tiger decided Williams was no longer useful, he was gone. That is not loyalty. That is not partnership. That is cold calculation. That is treating a human being like a piece of equipment. And the fraud is that Tiger built his image around focus, discipline, and respect for the game. He talked about honoring the traditions of golf. But the person who knew him best saw something different. Williams saw a man who was so focused on his own success that he could not see the people around him as anything more than tools to be used and discarded. The fallout from this firing damaged Tiger's reputation in a way that tournament results could never fix. Because fans realized that the person they had been cheering for was not the person they thought he was. Tiger was not the loyal partner. He was the boss who fired his most loyal employee without a second thought. And Williams made sure everyone knew it. He made sure the truth came out. And that truth changed how millions of people saw Tiger Woods, the greatest player in the world, but also a man who treated his closest ally like garbage. So what do all these stories tell us? They tell us that the caddy is the person who sees the truth. They're with you in the moments that do not make it onto television. They see how you react when you miss a putt, how you talk when you think no one important is listening, how you treat people when the cameras are off. And when the partnership breaks, the truth comes out. The fraud is the gap between the brand and the reality. Tiger was loyalty. Phil was fun and generous. Kuchar was the nice guy. Allenby was a professional. And Woosnam was the victim of an incompetent caddy. But when the caddies told their stories, a different picture emerged. They told stories of cold firings, unpaid wages, verbal abuse, exploitation. They told stories of players who built images that did not match their actions. And when fans heard those stories, they had to rethink everything they believed. Because the person carrying the bag is not just a worker. They are the closest witness to who you really are. And if they call you a fraud, people listen. These 5 cases are not just about bad behavior. They are about power. About the imbalance between a millionaire athlete and the person who works for them. About what happens when respect breaks down. About what happens when someone with all the power treats someone without power like they do not matter. And these stories matter because they reveal a truth that extends far beyond golf. They show us that success and wealth do not automatically make someone a good person. That fame and talent can exist alongside cruelty and selfishness. That the polished image we see on television is often just that, an image. Carefully constructed, carefully maintained, but fragile. Because it only takes one person who knows the truth to bring it all crashing down. The caddy is that person. They are the one who cannot be bought with sponsorship deals or silenced with public relations campaigns. They know what happened. They were there. And when they decide to speak, the truth comes out in a way that no amount of damage control can fix. You can build the biggest brand in the world. You can win majors. You can smile for the cameras. You can have millions of fans. But if you do not treat people right, if you do not pay people fairly, if you do not show respect to the people who work hardest for you, eventually the truth comes out. And when it does, the fraud is exposed. The caddies in these stories were not just employees. They were partners, witnesses. And when they spoke, they revealed what the public did not want to see. That the heroes they cheered for were flawed. That the nice guys were not always nice. That loyalty was sometimes just a marketing tool. That respect could be selective. And that the real story was darker and messier than anyone wanted to admit. The caddies had been there from the beginning. They had seen these players at their best and at their worst. So the next time you watch a golfer celebrate a win, take a second to look at the caddy standing beside them, because that caddy knows the truth. They know what that player is really like. They know how they treat people when the spotlight is off. And if they ever decide to tell that truth, the fraud will be exposed. The image will crumble. And fans will have to face the reality that the person they believed in was not who they thought. If you made it this far, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment about which story shocked you the most. And remember, these stories are not just about golf. They are about character, about how we treat the people who work for us and with us. In golf, like in life, character is not about what you show the world. It is about how you treat the people who carry the weight for you when no one is looking. The caddies see everything. They remember everything. And when they speak, the truth always comes out. Respect the people who work for you. Pay them fairly. Treat them with dignity. Because in the end, your legacy is not just about the wins. It is about how you made people feel along the way.